Hello and good afternoon. Wait a second. I was off camera. What the H is happening? This show is already off to a bad start. Welcome, everyone, to the new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mr. BoomStick XL. And my God, last night we did primetime gaming. We reviewed Halo Infinite live on the air. And folks, it was almost a 3-hour show. I mean, my God, my back was a disaster area afterwards because you can only sit down in a chair for so long before you feel like the Iron Sheik has put you in the camel clutch. And only old school WWF people know what I'm talking about. You new school kids, you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But anyway, we have a smaller panel today. As you can see, it's Zemi Games, it's Mav, and we also have Cotton McCass joining us, hopefully momentarily. We have a few people out right now. Pong Sol got called into work. Real life, folks. Damn it, right? And he'll be back next week for our end of the year Xbox show. Boxenberger is traveling. He will be returning next week as well for our end of year show. And 3-Bit obviously is still doing what 3-Bit does. He's either modeling or he's making a game, but man, that kid is the total package. He's got it all, and he'll be back eventually. But let's introduce the cog that keeps this show running, the bravest man and Halo master with over 100 achievements in Halo Infinite. Zemi Games, what's up, brother? How you feeling?
Don't pad my record too much, Boom. I think it's like 98 achievements, but it should be over 100. There's four of them.
A couple didn't pop, so I'm
yeah,
counting those.
Yeah. Okay, good. No, dude, I'm doing great. I'm getting a little bit sick, so apologies to the chat that has to.
And
has
somehow
to
you're still here, and Pong. So listen, I don't know, Pong.
What can I say? My professionalism levels are just a little bit high. I don't know. No, that's not true at all. But no, dude, super excited. Can't wait to dive into these amazing topics that you have lined up, and yeah, look forward to it, man.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about. A game that you and I have been talking about for what seems like years, is The Last Night, the cyberpunk side-scrolling pixel bit type of game. We got some new information on that, folks, and we're going to get into that momentarily. We're going to be talking about the big update coming for Halo Infinite multiplayer with the return of SWAT, which a lot of people, I know that Nick from Xbox Era is tickled pink because that's one of his favorite modes. That will be coming. I believe it's releasing this week, the multiplayer update. And we'll be talking about Hellblade II, folks. And there's a lot to get into. Game of the show, in my opinion, for the Game Awards. And a real exclamation point into what Xbox Game Studios is going to be bringing us in future iterations of first-party games. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's welcome in Mav. What's going on? Fun speculation. How the hell are you? And have you been able to stop playing Halo?
Only because I'm busy doing other things. But when I'm playing something, I want to be playing Halo.
When you're not playing Halo, you're thinking of Halo.
Yes. And then sometimes my wife will say, "Hey, do you want to play Halo multiplayer, or do you want to check this out?" So I'm like, "Okay, yeah, let's do that." The thing is, when I sit down to play,
the question, Matt, before you go any further, who's better? Is it you or is it Caitlin?
Well, at life or at Halo?
At Halo. At life, she's the queen. We know that.
I love
Mav, let me just help you. You just say her. Automatically, just say her.
I can't do it, man. Like, am I?
So, Caitlin, if you're in the chat, I know you are. Don't get mad at me. He said it. I didn't.
Okay, so she's better at using sticky grenades, and she's better at making her opponents feel terrible after she kills them.
Oh yeah, she's the queen of the. Yeah. I don't remember quite what it was, but it was graphic.
Yeah, it's pretty graphic. So I'll hold back saying what she calls it. But it involves a woman's version of a teabag. I'll say that. So she's pretty. If you played against her, you played against her, right? Because you probably got killed by a sticky grenade, and then you got demoralized afterwards. So she's better at that stuff overall. I mean, she holds her own though, man. Like she'll hold her own. She's pretty good. I just can't say that she's better than. I don't know.
All right, listen. You know what? I mean, listen. It is what it is. But listen, it's great to have you here. Obviously, we have a lot to get into. And of course, I do want to open up with The Last Night. This is something that Zemi Games and I have talked about on the Xbox Factor for actually quite some time. And this is a game that was originally shown, and I actually did not realize how long ago, folks, this game was shown off. It was E3 2017. There, the Microsoft presentations, Emmy, which is wow. I mean, we're in 2021, literally about to cross the veil for 2022, and the game, obviously, it had its problems, but I did pull some information that I want to reiterate to anyone like us who have been interested. Like, I'm an old school flashback fan. That was a side scroller way back in the days. My brother Neo Mental and I used to play it almost all the time, specifically on the 3DO. It was one of their launch games, and I absolutely loved it. And that's the feeling I get when I look at this game. And obviously, it is cyberpunk influenced, and it is in that world, and it just looks phenomenal if you appreciate pixelized types of graphics. Now, a lot of the younger kids that are new to gaming, you got very lucky where you are now coming into games looking like Mortal Kombat 11, where they're lifelike, and you were not exposed to the old school dots and sticks that moved on the screen. And we as kids were not even Zemi, because Zemi, you're a kid too. For me, it was wonder, right? Like, you're seeing
I played Pac-Man. Boom. I played
at least
old
you
Mario,
played
I
Pac-Man.
experienced it.
Well, thank goodness for that. But listen, let me get into what they're saying in this article from PC Gamer. They spoke with the last night's creator, Tim Surratt, via email. This happened now, according to the story, this was last week, but it was on December 9th when they actually spoke with him during specifically the Game Awards. And Surratt dismissed the rumors, saying that the last night will be shown next year, not before. There were some rumors that his game was going to be unveiled at the Game Awards, which would have been massive. Unfortunately, it did not happen. But this is what he has to say. What we know is that the last night comeback in 2022 is happening. We make it our mission to blow everything away by the strength of the game's originality and our proposition. Now, I don't know what the proposition actually, what he meant to say there, other than the fact that he knows that people have been asking for this game. The game did suffer some big hurdles, and the story broke down exactly what those hurdles were. It says here, and when they specifically say Roblox, they lost its publishing partner, and they had to raise the funding to finish this game on their own. And a lot of people like Zemi and myself have been asking, what the heck happened to this game? Zemi, are you happy to know that this isn't one of those tragedies where we got excited for a game? The game looks phenomenal. It's telling a phenomenal story, and it just didn't come out because of X, Y, and Z. But now we know that it is, in fact, coming out next year. No specific launch date, but are you excited that it's still a thing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And whenever he says proposition, maybe he's talking about the value proposition. You remember that term? We used to use that all the time.
All the time.
You used to have to pay to say it. You had to pay me. Nobody says it anymore, though. I'm about to file
I was
chapter
tired of
14.
paying. I think it's really what it comes down to.
No, but absolutely. Yeah, I am very much excited that they're still working on this game. This is actually a game that I forgot the name of it. Like, I forgot the name of this game, but I didn't forget what it actually was. The side-scrolling cyberpunk set cinematic platformer that graphically looks absolutely gorgeous, So I still think about it, to this day, and I've wondered, what did happen to that, game? Because if I'm not mistaken, of course, we talked about this game before Cyberpunk 2077 comes out, and of course, I don't think it's set in the same Cyberpunk universe, but we talked about the game, and we kind of thought that it was going to come out actually before Cyberpunk 2077, and unfortunately it didn't. And now we have some reasons behind that. They're having issues with funding from their publisher, and well, not their publisher anymore. But no, it is really, really good to see that they were able to raise the funding, which is incredibly hard to do. A lot of people,
Yes.
a lot of amateurs at it, they come in and they say, well, just make a Kickstarter, right? Or go do this or go do that. And it's one thing saying it, but it's a completely different thing doing it. So many people, actively go and try to get their projects funded through Kickstarter, that it's not as easy as it once was. And so finding funding is really, really hard, especially in the games industry nowadays. So huge props to them being able to actually finally get the funding and continue working on this passion project that quite literally was kind of what it is. I mean, it's an indie game, so for sure it's a passion project for them. And I cannot wait to have my hands on it and get to play it. Hopefully sometime next year. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed. But yeah, no, super excited, happy to hear that all is finally and hopefully good with this game, and we'll be able to play it soon, because it's been a long time coming for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was shown off in what seemed to be very playable fashion in
Hmm.
2017, and now we're moving into 2022. By the time this game does release, it could potentially have a 5 or 6 year dev cycle, and for a 2D 8-bit type of graphics, it seems like this game probably was only held up by the funding and a publisher. But obviously, I don't in the article it doesn't specifically say where this game is going to be published. Is Microsoft still publishing this? I don't know. Is this going to be published through ID at Xbox? I don't know. Is someone going to step in, like some of the the big programs that focus on indie development? We don't know. But all I know is that I'm excited, as someone that appreciates these 2D type of games that show 8-bit graphics but tell these monster stories. And in the cyberpunk world, I mean, obviously there's a lot of story to tell there, whether it be an actual cyberpunk game or this. I'm looking forward to. Mav, let's get your opinion on this. This is an old school type of game. A lot of people are probably going to pass on it because it's not a big budget AAA bomb. Where do you fall with The Last Night? Is this something that you'd be interested to play?
Yeah, it's something that jumped off the screen. I remember when it was originally shown, and everybody was kind of buzzing about it afterwards. Um, there's another game that kind of reminds me of, because it was shown a long time ago, and then it just took forever to come out. And that game was Below. You remember Below?
Yes, I sure do.
Yeah, remember is from Capybara Games, and they like had a pretty big thing about it actually at like one of the Xbox shows a long time ago. I think it's like 2013 or 2014. It took like an entire generation for that game to finally make its way out. And then when it finally came out, it was like it wasn't a big deal at all. You know what I mean? It is kind of nobody really played it.
It's funny. It came out and kind of it did what it needed to do, but it had more buzz, I felt, before it launched
Yeah.
as opposed to when it actually launched.
Yeah, I think the buzz kind of died over time. And that's one thing with these games, when they're these indie games, when they're announced so early and you get that initial buzz and then they disappear for a few years. I mean, this game Last Night's been missing in action for so long that there's actually games about to come out next year that are inspired by it.
Yes, isn't that crazy? Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yasid Baez in the chat is asking. He says, just jumped on. Has The Last Night been announced? As a matter of fact, well, I mean, it depends on what you call announced. They interviewed, and I say interviewed, PC Magazine interviewed the creator, and according to the interview, The Last Night will be releasing in 2022. We just don't have a publisher or a release date as of yet.
Yeah.
And I hate to jump in on you, Mav, but see, that's one other thing to think about though, as well, is how did they get this funding? Because if it was through another publisher, then that's, relatively pretty good, because their publisher is probably going to take care of most of the marketing material for them.
Yeah.
Whereas if, they possibly got funding through like a VC, like a venture capital or something like that, or possibly through a Kickstarter, they may not have adequate funding for marketing, or they may not have the expertise, to market this game, which would kind of lead to what Mav was talking about, games coming out super, far out from whenever they were first announced and just kind of not getting all the attention that they deserve.
Well, I think part of it is because they don't really have a lot of updates that are relevant enough to show
Sure.
at the showcases. And they have a small team, right? So, they got to put something together to showcase, but they're also trying to get this thing done. And when it's a small team, and I think they have a lot of ambition based on what their original vision is, right? So, he did say that he expects for us to see it next year. I don't think that necessarily means that it's going to come out next year, but we're going to get a big update on it at some point to where we really know, like, hey, what this game is actually truly going to be. What does it look like in its current state and all those things. So the thing is now that they've inspired other developers that are making things that look amazing that's coming out potentially even sooner, and that's like replaced, right? The replaced developers, like, yeah, like we saw last night and we thought it was amazing. It's not made by the same people. It's a different studio. So when we saw replaced, that again jumped off the screen, and now everybody's super anticipating that. But I think that game's actually legitimately coming out next year. So we'll see if the buzz has died down too much. I feel like I wish they would have just waited to show it, but or the thing is, to get funding, sometimes you got to show things. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
got to create that buzz. Like look at No Man's Sky, right? No Man's Sky was originally just little indie project, right? And they showed it and it blew everybody away, and then all of a sudden, like people put their full marketing support behind it. You know what I mean? And it turned into this thing that had all these crazy expectations, and it launched, and it was like, hey, we forgot that it was a small studio making this game, and they're really not capable of doing everything that they were aspiring to right away. So I think Last Night will eventually come out, and it'll eventually be good. But I don't know, man. I feel like the buzz on it is kind of died.
Well, I mean, listen, it's a game that I think had a lot of buzz. I
Mhm.
can't say that it's going to explode on the scene unless, like you both were saying, that it's going to have a nice marketing push behind it. When we were hearing about this, we were also hearing about Cyberpunk being made, as a AAA bomb. So there was a lot of hype and enthusiasm because, well, we're getting Cyberpunk on a AAA bomb from one of the better developers in the world that just brought that just released The Witcher 3, and everyone loved that. And of course, now we're getting back then, the pixel art was kind of a hot thing back in 2017, 2018. Everyone was getting in on the ground floor of, hey, we want to go back to what where we came from. Let's do some pixel art. I still think the game has legs, in my opinion. I'm going to buy it day one. I don't know if this is going to be a Game Pass thing or not, but I would
Mhm.
gladly jump on that because I like those kind of games. Again, for me, it's a very reminiscent of Flashback from back in the days, to some extent. Not exactly. It's not a one-to-one to Flashback, but it's close enough that has me very excited. I can't wait to hear more about this, and I think most of us are excited for it as well. Again, I have a strange suspicion that we could see it at one of the earlier shows next year, whatever spring event that's going to be. I don't know if we're going to get a spring Xbox event. Maybe they go back to the table with Xbox and they show it, and it does release next year. I would think that if it doesn't release next year, I think that this game is finished, in my opinion, because at this point, it's going to have 6 years of development time. I think that's too much for a pixel art game. Honestly, I mean, some Sony games that are AAA, movies take 5 and 6 years. There's no reason why this game would take any longer than 2022, and if it does, I don't think we ever see it, in my opinion, because at that point, what is really the holdup? Hopefully, though, that does not, in fact, happen. Before we get to the next, and this one's a big one because when we're talking some Halo for a lot of reasons, there's a lot to talk about with Halo. besides it being Game Informer's Game of the Year, folks. They just announced that, which is pretty interesting. They also announced that Forza Horizon 5, which you see on your screen, is their console exclusive of the year for Xbox. I loved what they did. I love the fact that they gave the love to Halo for their game of the year, and they still found a way to represent one of the best racers ever created in the history of gaming, at least in my opinion. Some people will say no, but I would say I think what you see on your screen is a hard argument to being the best racer ever released. There are two that some people, at least I still hold up there. Burnout 3 is one of them. Burnout 3 is a modern day masterpiece. And another one that a lot of people forgot about, but I wish they would do a remake of, and that is Need for Speed Most Wanted, the first one that launched with the Xbox 360 as a launch title. That was genius back then, and I would love an actual remaster of that version. That not, the other ones, I could take or leave. That one though deserves a remake. But before we get into the next topic, and we're going to be talking about Halo, I got to read two super chats, and this one's a little emotional, folks. David Lyons in the chat drops an outstanding and very generous $5 super chat, but it's what he says that I call emotional. He says, I just wanted to say thank you to Boom, the Iron Lords podcast, our brothers, and the guys over at the XB2. And of course, that he's talking about Randall Thor and friend of the show. Well, both of them are friends of the show. Jez Corden of Windows Central at the Xbox 2 podcast. He said that he lost his brother 5 months ago, and you guys have helped me through some tough times. Well, dude, first of all, thank you for sharing that very personal story. And I'm sorry, and condolences to you and your family that you did lose your brother, lose anyone in your family, even if a pet. It's devastating, but especially when it's your brother. And of course, we do this for the love of this community, and the fact that I have, this very small podcast has helped you through some tough times is a testament to why we do it. That we do it for the community, and I'm glad that it has helped. Thank you for the generous $5 super chat, but of course, thank you for sharing your story. The next super chat comes in from a very generous friend of the show, Jerron TJ, drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, I cannot wait for Hellblade 2. Yeah, we're going to get into that towards the back end of the program. I am blown away by what we saw. I don't want to spoil my whole spiel, so we'll get into that. But thank you, Jordan TJ. Definitely appreciate that. And of course, welcome everybody else. Listen, Deploy 619. You got to reach out to me on social media of some form. Email me or something, because last night you won a code that was donated by Mr. Joanna Dark for the Halo Infinite campaign. And if you have it, give it away to a family member who doesn't have it, but that was donated, and you won that by simply just being in the chat. So DM me on Twitter so I can drop the code for you, or email me. And, obviously I want to make sure that it's you that I'm getting the code to. Yes, you did, Boom. Yes, he said, did I, Boom? Yes, you did. Deploy 619, you won a paid $60 copy of Halo Infinite, courtesy of our friend from Microsoft, by the way, in Mr. Joanna Dark. So yeah, man, definitely hit me up. Big shout out to Sour Blow Gaming, who was on there with Bango Mango last night from all the way from the beautiful state of Hawaii. And we had an incredible 3-hour podcast. So if you missed it, Primetime Gaming is up on VOD. And so is my Halo review of the newest version and episode 5 of X Vlog. Definitely go and check that out. That's 24 minutes. Not as probably one of my longer ones for sure. It was meant only for 10 minutes, but I can't stop gushing of Halo, which we're going to talk about momentarily. But listen, we've been playing, I think I can speak for everyone, we've been playing the hell out of the campaign for a lot of reasons, because it's the best campaign, in my opinion, ever. For me, it has moved past 3, which was my favorite of all time. This Halo is my favorite Halo of all time. I've said it in my video. 343 Industries has officially been moved out of the shadow of Bungie. This game does it all. Now, is it perfect? It's not. It's not a perfect game by any stretch of the truth, but it is a 10. And I explained that in the videos. Definitely go check that out. And on the channel. But Zemi, you and I have been playing the multiplayer, and we pale in comparison to Mav, who has 376 hours and 10 minutes in Halo Infinite multiplayer. It's his thing. He's very good at it. You are very good at it. And we have wanted some updates. And 343 Industries has, in fact, answered the call. And in our DM, I dropped exactly what those updates were going to be. So, folks, if you did not know, we do have some pretty big updates coming to Halo Infinite multiplayer. And this was posted on Reddit by 343 Industries developer Sketch, who is a community manager. And he revealed that the Slayer only playlist is officially locked and loaded for the update this week. And he went on to reveal that the 4 playlists include Slayer, Fiesta, FFA, and Tactical Slayer, known as SWAT, will also be added to the game on Tuesday, which is today, December 14th. Now, the post also revealed that further changes were in fact coming to the challenge system. And this is what he had to say. Next week's update will also include adjustments to the challenges, including removing some particularly frustrating mode-specific ones, reducing some requirements for others, making the weekly ultimate challenge less intensive. And he also continued, personally, I'm eager to check out a new challenge category that's based on accumulating player score, a small initial step towards performance-based XP. This is something we've all been asking for. And when you are really good, and both Mav and, of course, Zemi Games are really good. Like, I get 9 kills, 10 kills, 12 kills. I've had 17. I've even had 22, which is bonkers for me. But versus, kill death, I'm hovering as being an average player. But Zemi and Mav, they're very good players where they are racking up 23 kills versus five deaths. And when you walk away with 100 XP, people are kind of scratching their head like, Jesus Christ, how good do I have to be in order to get proper XP? Well, now we know that they are working towards that. Zemi, how does this information hit you? Is it what the game needs to move to the next tier or upper echelon of what we know as free-to-play shooters?
Oh yeah, and it's very exciting news, and I think that most of us that have been actively playing this game have kind of expected that they would do this because of course the game launched in a beta state, and it's still very, very early in this game's life cycle, right? Like, they're going to continue to update and bring new features and so on and so forth. I wish that those features were available, on launch in the beta, right? But they weren't. So I'm really, really excited to hear that they are bringing the new playlist, so I can choose to play Slayer if I want to play Slayer, right? Which is a fan favorite mode. Like, a ton of people absolutely love Slayer, and that's what a lot of players just play. Not everyone is into into objective game modes. And then also the idea that they're going to update the challenges and kind of remove those game specific modes. Like, for instance, if you have to play 3 games of oddball, well, that's great. That's not really that hard of a challenge until you keep playing quick play and you're just getting stronghold and capture the flag and Slayer, and you never get oddball. Then it becomes really, really frustrating, and just takes a lot longer to complete those challenges. And for like in-game progression, as a player who, and by no means am I going to go and join the pro circuit for Halo, right? I would get absolutely smashed in there against those, guys that have played a lot longer and just clearly a lot better than I am. But I feel like, players that perform better in games should reap more rewards than players that don't, right? And
100%.
And also, tying that in with the progression system, I think is important because it gives reason to continue playing, right? Currently right now, once I complete all of my weekly challenges, there's no reason for me to continue playing multiplayer that week, right? Which, in all fairness, once I sink in the amount of time to complete all those challenges, I probably don't really need to be playing anymore anyway. But the point still there is you have to give players reason to keep coming back and to keep playing. And I think that they did a great job with updating the game, where the first game that you play in a day, you get 300 XP, the following 200 XP, and then the following 100 XP, and then it reverts to the 50 XP per game played. I think that that was a great step forward, but I would like to see that even, grown on even more with maybe another progression system like what we see in Call of Duty and what we've seen previously in Halo, where, you start as a recruit, and the more you play, the more XP that you gain, you start to raise your level all the way up until like maybe 5-star general or something like that. Another progression system that rewards me for playing even after I've completed all my weekly challenges. I'm really, really loving Halo multiplayer right now. I think it's fantastic, a ton of fun. I'm enjoying it a heck of a lot more than I've enjoyed playing Call of Duty in the last, probably 3 or 4 years. So, which says a lot because I'm a huge COD fan. But I just want it to grow and get even better and give me more reasons to play and more ways to reward me for doing good. In games, and I think that they are heading that way, which is absolutely exciting. Whenever you were, giving the spill of what is coming to the game, like my stomach kind of got a little knotted up, got a little excited, a little nervous because I really enjoy playing this game, and I'm excited for the future, for the new things that are coming, each update. And, of course, today, Tuesday, starting at 12. So, the new challenges come out, which I'm really, really pumped for. So right after this show, I'm going to be jumping right back into Halo and continuing my rampages.
Well, I mean, and you do have a lot of rampages. You're quite good. There's no doubt
you.
about it. Mav, let's get your opinion on this, because obviously you do a lot of streaming. You obviously has sunk a huge amount of your personal time into Halo. It's a game that you love. A lot of us do, but you, like Zemi, are quite good. What are your thoughts are on the update? Do you agree with Zemi that that this is exactly what this game needs to move into the what people consider to be the best of the best of the best when it comes to shooters? And more importantly, I see a lot of people talking in the chat that they're surprised at how quickly 343 has responded to the criticism and are getting these changes out there. Should that be commended?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I wasn't ever freaking out to begin with. Like, half of the community, you know what I mean? Just like going crazy over these little things, this is their first foray into free to play model, right?
Yes.
And I personally thought it was the right move because it invites more players into the game. You're lowering the barrier of entry, so you're going to have a larger player base, which is going to increase engagement over a longer period of time, where you're going to have more incentive to create new, fresh content to keep that player base alive because people are going to be buying things, right? That's the way the free to play model works for shooters. And in fact, if you have a game launch at, like, let's say 60, $70, and then have microtransactions in it, like two of the other big popular first person shooters out there, right? This works better for me. Now, is it missing things that we're used to getting at launch? Yeah, it was. But also, we know Microsoft and we know 343 and their track record of working on content for the Halo games, right? Master Chief Collection today is a completely different thing than when it launched day one, right? They've changed just about everything with the systems in that game. Halo 5 is way better than it was at launch. I was never worried, right? I just knew that, okay, they're going to take
I agree with
feedback
you.
and implement changes.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I tell you why I wasn't worried, because of how much fun we were having in the flightings.
Yeah.
And I got a chance to play all three. And then, of course, everyone got into the beta, and it launched officially on December 8th with the campaign. The product that they had put down in front of us seemed so on point then, and I like you was. I knew that it was going to have some growing pains per se. That some people did not get what they wanted initially, but like you, I have to commend them for being able to put out these updates so quickly. I mean, folks, they are human beings, right? It's the holidays. Who's not trying to run a household right now on December 14th and say, holy shit, Christmas is in 11 days and Kwanzaa is right after that. And, it's everyone, and all of the other holidays that come this time of year, it's stressful. But besides all of that, and besides trying to pay your rent and everything else, they still have to make a video game. And I know it's their job, and people are like, don't make excuses for them. They're people, folks. Remember that. And with all of the pressures of the world, COVID specifically being the biggest thing going on, and we have another outbreak, they still figured they still managed a way to get all of these updates right before the holiday. Again, I have to tip the Mohawk to them.
Yeah, and the other thing, Boom, like if you really want to compare it to other experiences multiplayer wise, other free to play multiplayer games have always launched with way less.
Oh, 100%, dude.
I'm just
Look
saying,
at Apex Legends. As
it had
great
one
as
map,
it
one mode,
was,
one
mode. And how many maps were there?
One.
Certainly one.
There was just one. Yeah, it's just the Battle Royale map. And
that was it.
They added the second map, which actually I preferred just the one at the time, but they added now they have like 3 maps, maybe 4. I don't know exactly what it's at now. Then they eventually added the arena mode, then they had added the solo, and they had the events and all this stuff. But it took time. It was launched actually in a like pre-release like season 0 state for months. I remember because I played the heck out of it, and I maxed out my level in like 2 weeks, right? So Fortnite, when it launched, it had one mode. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot to these games with the free to play model that people just kind of don't understand. It's not as easy to just go in and, oh, we're just going to add this and add this, like the traditional model that Halo had before, because there's a lot of systems in place to make all this stuff work. So, but as quickly as they're doing this is crazy impressive because they're adding, what was it, like 4 modes that we wanted? We wanted Slayer, Free for All, SWAT, and
SWAT was the
they
big
added
one for a
Fiesta.
lot of people. Not so much for me. I'm not a fan of SWAT. I never have been. But the guys like Nick from Xbox Era, a good friend of the program, him, Long John, and One Bad Mother, and Jordy. If you don't follow them and you follow me, please go give them a follow. They just crossed 10,000 subs and they are absolutely incredible. Nick has been calling specifically for, that's his favorite mode of all time, and it is a fan favorite of many. And like I said, it's here. The game just technically launched, Mav, on December 8th officially.
Yes.
And today's the 14th and we're getting an update. That's a pretty stout turnaround.
Yeah, and they're going to, this is going to be like, if for people that are saying, oh, okay, they're going to update it, it's going to be done. No. This game is going to get progressively updated with content and tweaks and updates and new content over years and years and years, right? This is what the model is going to be. You're going to have new maps. You're going to have new modes. Who knows? Maybe they're going to do some interesting things with weapons at some point. We don't know what their long-term plans are, but I do know one thing. They're always going to listen to the roarous fan feedback, which is always so freaking loud, especially with the Halo crowd, because you do one thing that they don't like, you do one thing that's missing, it's like the whole thing's ruined. You know what I mean? It's like everything sucks, just because of one thing. So they're always going to listen to this feedback and make changes and update as things go. And I was never worried about it because it's a talented team. I was never worried about the campaign. Like everybody was worried about the campaign. I was on record saying, hey, the worry at the time was graphics. I was like, when has 343 ever made a bad graphics looking game? Everything that I had seen from the campaign demo that they showed at the time was like, I was actually excited about the direction of the game. I knew the graphics were going to work out, especially after they announced the 1 year delay. But I remember even like when that Eric Lynn thing came out, when he's talking about, I remember Schreier retweeted it and talked about crunch, and everybody's like, "Oh, Halo's screwed again." It's just like jumping on every little possible negativity that they can. And guess what we got? We got a great Halo game at launch, and we got a great multiplayer that's going to consistently be updated. Same thing with the campaign. You're going to consistently get stuff in the campaign over time. And
Yep.
I'm freaking here for it, man. This is like a Halo. This is like my dream Halo game. Like
Yes,
with it all
100%.
tied into one. I'm super happy about it.
I said this before, and I don't mind reiterating it again. What a way for Xbox to close out 2021 in what I believe to be their best year in a decade, in regards to first party output, completely pulling the rug or the mat out from under on Sony, who was and barely continues to be the market leader. I think that what we're seeing happen right in front of our eyes is something that we saw happen in the 360 era, where Xbox just wind up, Sony put themselves in a box with that $600 PS3, right? I mean, that's just and the way that they said get a second job, they did some pretty dumb things, and they haven't done themselves many favors in 2021. 2022 is probably going to be a little bit better for them. Obviously, Gran Turismo is coming out. I am probably going to get that used. I'm not paying $70 for a game I'll play 10 minutes into. I did that with Dark Souls, and that was a terrible mistake. I'm not a big fan of Gran Turismo. Back in the days I was. Now I could care less. For me, the biggest highlight for them moving forward in 2022 is Horizon. I'm super stoked for that. I don't think we get God of War. I'm gonna die on this hill. I think God of War is coming 2023 in March. So if it turns out that they only get 2 first party games next year, that's not going to be a great year for PlayStation fans who have been begging for new content. Whereas Microsoft seems to have really hit the ground running. This year is a prime example, and 22 and 23 seem to be the coming out party for Xbox. Lot to get excited about. Specifically, going back to Halo, it is a game that is going to continue to evolve, and they're going to keep adding stuff to both the multiplayer and the single player. See, that's what I love about Infinite as a single player game, is that we know that they're going to be building a 10-year story. Master Chief's story doesn't end with this. It's going to continue. Now, are we getting story beats like we heard in that leak with Locke and other characters? Potentially. I hope that we do hear about that sooner than later. But this has been a great way to to open up the show. Obviously, anytime we get a chance to talk about Halo, it's fantastic. We are 45 minutes into the program. I kind of want to just do our weekly Game Pass update. Folks, there's some big games coming to Xbox Game Pass. I have that list in front of me. And of course, that comes to us from our very good friends at XboxEra.com, folks. Now, one of these games I know that Zemi was looking forward to, The Lake, or Lake as it's known. Firewatch is coming. Broken Age is coming. Mortal Kombat 11 is dropping into it. The Gunk is dropping into it with Transformers Battleground. I'm interested in that. I didn't buy it upon release. I'm a huge old school G1 Transformers fan, so I'm definitely going to be giving that a shot. But they did add a bunch of kid games here where it looks, guys, like the focus to kind of get everyone involved in Xbox Game Pass, from old man like Boom to young, my young nephew, and people who have smaller kids. They added Race with Ryan. Now, if you don't know who Ryan is, he's this mega star on YouTube. He has a toy line. He's a millionaire, and he think he's 7, right? His parents knew how to market his love for toys very well. So it's like a Mario Kart game. You also have Ben 10 Power Trip, which obviously that's a cartoon that a lot of people dig, a lot of kids dig, and one of which seems to be our good friend Kay Asante is going to make him Dad of the Year. Paw Patrol, Mighty Pups Save Adventure Bay. Now, that may not mean anything to us because we're not going to play Paw Patrol, but for kids, you're starting to now see a value proposition. Zemi, I owe you money.
Yeah, 50 cents. Send it in the mail.
That Game Pass is now starting to, or at least Microsoft is starting to build this Netflix of gaming to not just hardcore fans, not just casuals who want to play FIFA or play the new Madden or NBA 2K. Now they seem to be looking towards, let's get a complete package and start bringing in the family-friendly games. We've heard Phil Spencer talk about this. Zemi, this is a pretty damn good list that's coming out on Thursday the 16th.
Yeah.
I mean, led by, of course, the Gunk, which is a $40 game. It's a platformer. It's an exclusive currently to Xbox. It's getting a lot of nice buzz. What are your thoughts on this list?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really great list. Like you, I think I'm going to pass on Paw Patrol. I just don't think whenever they were making that game, I don't think that they had me in the mind as the core demographic or the core audience for that product. So I'm probably going to pass on it a little bit. But the Gunk, really excited about that. We talk about this a lot on this podcast, but that for me, because I think Boom, you would have bought it regardless for $40.
100%, dude. I'm a platform freak. Yes.
But for me personally, that would have been a pass. Probably would have not paid $40 for it, but because it's in Game Pass, I will, be jumping into it, giving it a shot. Because it's, it's one of those games that we saw during E3.
Looked pretty good then. It's probably even better looking now.
Yeah, it looked pretty good, but it just didn't 100% sell me into I have to have this game the way that other titles have, the way that Chorus has, and I'm going to be buying that later on, hopefully this week.
I got a feeling that's coming to Game Pass, dude.
You think I shouldn't buy it? You think I should just wait?
I haven't bought it. I have just put $50 on the account, and I'm like, do I pull the trigger or does this come to Game Pass? I don't know.
Even if it came to Game Pass, I don't think I would be upset because I think the game is totally worth $40.
Dude,
like to me, that is
videos.
Like,
it looks good, dude.
It looks really good, yeah. But yeah, so I'm really excited that the Gunk is coming. Mortal Kombat 11, still haven't played. Still have not purchased that game. I know it's a gaming sin. I should be ashamed, but I haven't. So to me, that's awesome because I get to play Mortal Kombat 11. And then the Lake. The Lake was a game that I was super, super pumped for. And
That's right up your alley.
It is. I mean, that game was meant for me. Talk about me being the core demographic for that product. Absolutely. I'm really, really excited about the Lake. I don't know why I haven't gotten it yet, but it's coming to Game Pass, so no worries. Firewatch, I've already played. Fantastic walking simulator with a lot of kind of like engagement, great story. So anyone that hasn't played Firewatch, I highly, highly, highly recommend, especially if you just want to sit down and have a kind of relaxing, not super, super intense with gameplay, experience. Firewatch is for you. Absolutely love that game. But one thing I will also mention as to the child-friendly games, I think it is very strategic that Xbox is doing this at this specific time, because what's about to happen, Christmas, and what are kids about to get? Hopefully an Xbox Series S or X, right? A console of some kind.
The S is definitely more readily available, but yeah, dude, that's a great point.
Yeah, and having those games in there is a great way to help parents save on money and make sure that their kids stay up in their room and not bother them whenever it's time for the next episode of Yellowstone Halo to come on. Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But no, I think it's very strategic to have these very child-friendly games come into Game Pass at this time, during the holiday season. And it's one thing that, it's still, in my opinion, is not as prevalent for that service as child-friendly games. So it's great to see that we're getting a lot of them come into the service, especially this time of the year.
And I agree. You know something? I didn't even put that one and one together. That actually makes an incredible amount of sense.
Yeah.
Really, you know, we've seen a really steady flow of incredible second and third party games, some double A, some single A, some triple A, and we're getting that this month again. But what we haven't seen specifically in an abundance has been the family friendly game, and trying to sell your Netflix of gaming to us is super easy. Like I'm paid up until I just added another month until December 15th, 2024. Like I'm good.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm good. I got the 3 years maxed out. I went crazy. And Mrs. Boom surprised me with I think two 6-month cards on top of it. It was just bonkers. So yeah, I like paying it in advance, not having to worry about it. But you're right. You're onto something there because we know that the Xbox Series S was the best-selling console in Black Friday. Some people are discounting that because they're saying, "Well, it was the only one available." So, if you good
Well,
on you,
that's
if
a
you think like
testament.
that.
That's a testament to Xbox's ability to push out product.
There you go.
I mean, that's a compliment if it's
Yeah,
the only one that's available.
it actually is, but
I mean, it wasn't available because there was less of them. There was more of them, and it's because it sold more.
yeah,
Right. So
yeah.
the whole argument is just so dumb.
It's just knucklehead nonsense. This one guy had the mutant here who just, I guess, loves Apex Legends and just could not stop trying to bully people around. Next time, it's just going to be a straight up ban because I don't stand for that. You love your Apex Legends. Good on you. Don't come at me that I'm comparing it to Halo, because all you're going to do is piss me off and I'm just going to ban you. So don't be an asshole. Anyway, before I get to Mav, let's let me do some of the super chats that have come in. Thanks, courtesy of Zemi Games, who puts them into the private chat and certainly saves the day. We have Chris drops an outstanding $5 super chat and he says, "Just checked my Halo challenges. There's a new one that says cumulative player score. This is a step towards rewarding performance in matches." Indeed, I believe that's what we were talking about. And like I said, I don't average 20 kills per match. I just don't. I'm getting 12, 13, 14, and I'm okay with that. You know, some days I just do absolutely terrible, and there's other days that I just seem to be on point. Good friend of the show, John Wolf, drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "Gameplay is king, and Halo Infinite, just like Destiny, nailed that aspect." Indeed, they did. As a matter of fact, I said this before. This isn't a spoiler, folks. All you gotta do is turn on the game and you see what happens between Aatrox and Master Chief. It's literally 30 seconds into the game. That particular scene, Zemi, reminded me of the opening to Destiny 2. So there were some story beats that were kind of one-to-one. And I agree. I look, I don't know how anyone else is playing it. I'm addicted to it like crack cocaine, and I am not in the rush to finish the story. I'm literally 56% done with the story, and all I'm trying to do is I will not leave an area until every log, every skull, everything is found. And it's how I enjoy these open world games. I'm absolutely loving it. And yeah, I absolutely agree with you, John. Gameplay is they did in fact nail it. And he also continues with, they will continue building and the game will look incredibly different in 1 year's time. I absolutely agree. I think it's going to be an entirely different single player, even a multiplayer for that matter. Drawn TJ shows his generosity once again with another outstanding $5 of Jen. Says, "Hey, I have a question. Where are the rest of the maps? There's supposed to be a total of 23 at launch, and there's still only 10. Your thoughts?" Yeah, I don't know what happened with the other maps. There were supposed to be a total of 23. I don't know if they're going to slowly dole those out. But they announced 23, so I would imagine at some point they will in fact be released. But Mav, you obviously have children. A child, and she's I don't think she's Paw Patrol age. I think she's a little older than that. But in your opinion, as a parent, who obviously both your wife and yourself game quite often, seeing Microsoft understand that the younger demographic of gamers needs to be represented in a way where something like Paw Patrol is not going to appeal to Zemi Games and myself, maybe even
It's
you.
not. Come on.
I'm sorry. It's now if there's easy achievements, I don't know. Maybe I jump on the bandwagon. I pull a Rand
That's
out
the only
Thor.
way, Boom.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
the
Pull a
only
Rand-
way, buddy.
Because
Only way to get
Rand
that
out
mill.
Thor, good friend of the show, he's gotten some Barbie achievements. You know,
I just looked at my friends list. Rand's playing Paw Patrol right now. No, he's
See,
not.
that's so Rand. That's
No.
so Rand. But no, honestly, what are your thoughts on Microsoft understanding that the younger demographic needs to be represented in order to reach a further audience than they currently have?
Yeah, we talked about this before. I even mentioned like they should have like a whole second division just called like Xbox Family or something where they come out with their own.
They should
original
have an
games and
actual
all that stuff.
section that's
Yeah.
dedicated to simply highlighting what family-friendly games. That's a fantastic point.
Yeah, I mean, I want them to have this go into development, like bring in studios that want to make those games because a lot of these are all third party. You know what I mean? So it'd be nice to have more first party stuff that's like E for Everyone type games by Xbox. Rare is kind of like the only studio that maybe Double Fine will. You know, I'm not sure, but um, Rare was kind of like the only studio making that kind of stuff, you know. But I think if they actually had a whole different division, they could do more. But this is a great step because ultimately, what that the parents don't know, hey, what's first party, what's third party. If they're buying their kid a console and they just like don't know anything about video games, a lot of times that's what happens at Christmas. You know, the kids are asking, and this parent's like, I don't, okay, yeah, this is what you want. Okay, it's the cheaper console, $299. Get the Series S. It's all digital, right? First step, right? So all digital. You're going in there. Okay, well, how do we put games on this thing? Well, let's go to look at the store. Okay, I see all these friendly games in here. But oh, hey, I see right in front of me on this big screen all of these games coming to Game Pass right now. What's Game Pass?
Yes.
Right?
Well, you know
Um,
what? You're making some great points. I am going to say though, because our current generation, even some of the older, and it really isn't anyone older than me. I mean, everyone in the space
yeah,
is years younger than me, which is fine. You know, listen, I got a chance to see gaming from sticks and dots to where it is now, so I'm privileged. But a lot of the younger parents that are in their, mid to late
yeah.
30s understand what a subscription service is. That's why it's not as foreign as, hey, listen, they know what's coming to Netflix, they know what's coming to Paramount, they know what's coming to Hulu. So I would imagine that it's not going to be that hard of a transition. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be foreign to what a subscription is. I think they're just going to be foreign to like what a first party or third party game is, and doesn't really like they don't care. They just want to get games for their kids, right? So when they go and they turn on the Series S for the first time, because that's obviously the most popular selling console as of Black Friday and all that kind of stuff, right? They're gonna boot up. The kid's gonna open up that box. They're gonna boot up the Series S. There's no disk drive. They're gonna turn it on, and they're gonna see like, okay, there's this list of games here that are for kids, right? That are in this service called Game Pass. So they
Yes.
may understand subscriptions, but they may have not heard of Game Pass. As crazy as it is for us in the Xbox community to believe, there's a lot of people that have not even heard of Game Pass or know what it is, right? I can talk to my parents, I can talk to my sister, my brother, different people that aren't really into gaming that much. They don't really know what it is. They may have heard the name before, but they don't know what it's about. So when you see that on the screen and you can say, okay, you get all these games and I just have a trial for like $1, and later it's like $9.99 if for regular service or $14.99 for both. And
Yes.
I think it just is a way of enticing all of these people that are going to be opening up these Christmas presents to get subscribed to Game Pass. I
Well,
mean,
I'm almost positive that during Black Friday, and this can continue in the holidays, and if I'm wrong, please by all means, somebody in the chat, correct me. With every new purchase of an Xbox Series S, you got 3 months of Xbox Game Pass for $1, and I think that was advertised right on the packaging. So you go and you buy this digital box, and you go and you set it up. Like I said, most parents that that are hip to subscription services may understand. Maybe they don't know what Game Pass is. They're going to learn, obviously, but Microsoft is giving them the 3 months for $1. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Can I add something?
Sure, by all means.
Yeah, well, you mentioned something great, and that is that parents nowadays are technically smarter. Whenever I say technically smarter, I mean like services and technology and that
A
type
little bit
of
more
stuff.
savvy, yes,
more savvy, right? But the kids are too. Right.
Yes.
The kids,
Yeah.
they understand what services are. They've been playing on their, mom and dad's iPad or smartphone since, they popped out of the womb, basically. Maybe that's a bit graphic for some people.
But I think you're onto something. There are
but-
kids with literally iPads in the cribs.
Absolutely. And so if I'm Xbox, I would start using a lot of traditional marketing and get a lot of these child-friendly, safe games into Game Pass and start marketing it on like Cartoon Network, using traditional advertisements, that type of stuff, right? Have these kids go to mom and dad and say, hey, I want an Xbox and I want this service called Game Pass because they have this game in there and this game in there and this game in there and all these other things. And I really want to do that. And one really great thing about this is that this opens up a great way for Xbox to really start competing with Nintendo with the child demographic. And I know a lot of us like to think that Xbox and Nintendo aren't competitors, but they absolutely are. And this is a great way for potentially Xbox to compete better with Nintendo and take some of their market share away from them.
You can't argue that point. That is great. And again, this is, I know people get tired of me talking about it, but God damn it, I'm going to continue to beat this drum until Microsoft answers the call. This is why we need a Banjo-Kazooie. This is why we need, I say Conquer. Conquer could be done in a way that, it's still going to be a little adult, to be honest with you. So maybe that's not a great pick, but they have a lot of, I'd love to see Viva Pinata come back, even if you HD remake. I know that it looks good and we can play it on backwards compatibility, but I would love to see someone remake the original 2. And give it that the next gen polish. I think that's a game. When you look at some of the games that are popular today, that was way ahead of its time back in the days, and I think it would have a huge tail. In the generation we are, specifically with the kids. So I'd love to see that come back. I'd love to see a game like Cameo. I don't know how many people played that. That was a phenomenal game that no one remembers. That was an Xbox 360 game. Yes, indeed it was. Another fantastic game. So they do have some IPs that could generate excitement.
Viva Pinata is like, what? Where is, Viva Pinata was crazy popular. They even came out, I think they had like a DS game or something.
It came out on Nintendo. Indeed it did, yes.
Yeah, so like, that's like one of these franchises that it was actually enjoyable for an adult to play.
Yes.
Kids loved it. That I could imagine so much things. It was so original. Wasn't there even like a cartoon or something they were even going to start with about that? Like,
yes,
I think that IP has so much potential. Like, I can't believe that they're not doing something with that right now.
Yeah, and again, we don't know, right? We can't specifically say. I don't have inside connections to tell me that they're not doing a Viva Pinata or not somehow bringing back Banjo-Kazooie. I believe that they have heard the cries of the people. I believe that this foray into bringing child-friendly games to a service that does have a lot of adult content is proof that they are listening, and they also understand that if they want to continue to build this franchise in this service business into what everyone calls it the Netflix of gaming, they need to offer games for everyone. And children are part of everyone. And and like I said, this is a great start. Not the biggest topic of the show for sure.
But man, has this topic transitioned into just another beast in itself, hasn't it?
It absolutely has. There's no doubt about it. But what was the next topic I wanted to talk about? I'm looking at the show notes over here. You know what? Let's transition, folks, over to the Ninja Theory one that everyone has tuned in for. This is important for two reasons, and we're going to start with their call to arms. And what am I talking about? Well, Ninja Theory had put out a recent hire tweet, and folks, that studio is growing and growing and growing. Now we know that they're working on Hellblade 2, obviously. We know that Project Mara, their horror game, which Zemi cannot wait to play. I know he's going to be with the headphones at night with the covers over his head playing until he beats that game. But Zemi, they are hiring, and I'm not just saying they. I'm talking more so, you know, we're gonna specifically talk about Ninja Theory for this topic, but the hiring that's going on at Microsoft is at a fever's pitch. Obviously, the Game Awards, you and I both absolutely loved the Bethesda one. It was so cheesy and so
I
great
loved it.
at
Oh
the
my
same
god, it was
time.
literally
Pete
like a
Hines at his
90s
absolutely finest,
Knuckles commercial.
and even the way he turned to the camera, it was it was so stiff. It was great. Now, obviously, it was made to look like that and be like that, but they are hiring so much, and now we know that Ninja Theory has again put the call out to the community, and it says this in a tweet that came December 10th, right after the Game Awards. Want to join us in crafting life-changing art with game-changing tech? Apply today. And they are hiring folks for animation programmer, VFX artist, senior rigger, technical artist, game designer, technical designer, level designer, and gameplay animator. I mean, Zemi, look, we're gonna get into what we saw with Hellblade, and we have some interesting information as to why it's more impressive what we're going to be getting with Unreal Engine 5 than what we actually saw. But let's get to what they're doing. They are hiring. We know that Hellblade 2 is extremely far into development. Now, how far, I honestly can't say because of the COVID restrictions. We don't know how far this game was put back, specifically because they use motion capture at Ninja Theory, just like Naughty Dog does, right? They, just like many of their studios with these incredible artwork that come to life, they use motion capture, and that was kind of put on hiatus definitely through 2021. And now we know that there's a huge amount of restrictions, specifically in California, where a lot of these studios are. But what are your thoughts on them continuing to hire? Like I said, it appears that they could be working on 2 or 3 projects, 4 projects for all we know. We know 2. We have heard in secret rumblings that they are working on a 3rd. What do you think they're doing? And are you excited to see what they bring to the table with all of these new additions to the studio?
Yeah, I mean, it's Ninja Theory. How can I not be excited, right? Everything that they've came out with that I've played has just been absolute, top notch, fantastic, fire of a game, right? I wish they were looking for a community manager. I mean, I'm just saying, somebody in marketing. I mean, I don't know. No, that'd be
Community
great.
manager.
Yeah. I wish that they were looking for that.
You have more. You have the piece of paper that I don't, so you're going to get hired. I'm old. I don't think I fall into any category at 51, which is fine. I'm happy with the YouTube, that I've done there. But you're a very young man, so I would tip the mocap to you and say, hey, you hire this man right here. Hire this.
Well,
guy.
it's just I wish they were hiring for something I'm at least somewhat remotely qualified for. You know what I mean? No, but here's the thing, and we mention this so often on this panel, but you know what? I will mention it again. That's one of the benefits that come with whenever Microsoft acquires you, right? They're the lifeblood of Xbox right now is its games. And in a way, it's always been that way, right?
Yes,
It's like the business model historically was you sold consoles at a loss and you made up that profit with game sales, right? And that, still kind of rings true today with the service model, right? Games are the lifeblood of, the service model. It's what keeps the service going. It's what keeps people subscribed, so on and so forth, right? So you want to make sure that you're coming out with really, really good products, really great games. And one way to do that is to hire more talent, to acquire great talent that will help expand these worlds and make them even better and bigger and so on and so forth. And what we're seeing is Microsoft investing into, the people that make their games. And they're doing this across all studios, but specifically, the exciting part with Ninja Theory is that Hellblade, the first one, was made with like what, 12 people, 18 people, something like that. I mean, minuscule compared, looking at the quality that Hellblade was versus, what other similar games of the same quality, have done with a larger by far studio of developers, right? So just seeing the quality that Hellblade puts out with such low numbers of developers, and the idea that they're growing and expanding on that is really, really, really exciting for a multitude of reasons. Of course, they're working on other projects other than the newest Hellblade, but overall, I think that this, at least specifically with this studio, is going to lead to nothing but fantastic games. And, it's great to see that Microsoft is continuing to invest into these studios that make these amazing worlds, because, it's exactly what they should be doing, right? With the money that they generate through Game Pass and, and through other forms and so on and so forth. I just wish that, and this is just coming from my selfish little bit, I just wish that they were looking for a community manager, Just try to get in there, give me a
Listen,
visa, and
that would
I'll
be
move to the UK.
one heck of a hire for sure. No doubt about that. But look, real quick, Jay Nichols in the chat drops a $2 super chat. Thank you for the generosity, Jay. He has a question. He says all kids want is a PS5 for Spider-Man, and they don't want Xbox, according to his tweet. Now I don't know. I mean his super chat. But the question that I have is, Jay, is that really true? Because while Zemi
let me just jump in. If all kids want is a PS5 and Spider-Man, Hasbro is going to have a really bad year. Okay,
yes. Well,
toy companies all around the world are going to really, really be struggling. That's not true. Come on,
it is not true. It's kind of a fanboy flamish kind of a comment. If he's being silly or fun, I hear you. But while Zemi was talking, I decided to bring some evidence to the conversation to debunk Mr. J. Nichols here and his attempts to say that PS5 or all kids want for Spider-Man. And you know what? You can't argue numbers, right? You're a numbers guy, Zemi. You're a numbers guy, ma'am. I'm a numbers guy myself. So I went and I looked at how many copies of Spider-Man 2018 sold. And they're probably at this number came to us at November of 2020. They had surpassed then. Sony made the announcement that they have sold and moved 20 million copies of Spider-Man. That's amazing, right? No pun intended. So let's just say since then they moved another 2.5, 22. Let's get crazy here. Let's really let our hair down, folks, and say 23 million units of Spider-Man 2018 have sold, and that's phenomenal, right? You cannot argue that success. Well, Spider-Man Miles Morales, which was and is fantastic, incredible launch game for the PlayStation 5, as of 2021, they have moved past 2.1 million copies. Again, very impressive. So let's just say from then to now, they moved another 1.9. Let's just say for shits and giggles that it's 6 million copies on top of the 23, right? That's 29 million units. And again, not taking nothing away from Insomniac or PlayStation, those are fantastic numbers. But is it when you have 115 million PlayStation 4s and not counting PlayStation 5s, which I believe they moved 10 plus million. So let's just say there's 125 million plus units of PlayStation boxes that can play these two games. When you're telling me that 29 million of the 125 plus million people, gamers, went out and bought these games, my question is your statement true? The answer is no. It is not, because a first-party game is not what people buy these PlayStation consoles for. It's for third-party games.
And if that's true, the Series S wouldn't have outsold the PS5 during the Series S and X wouldn't have outsold the PS5 this holiday.
Correct in saying so. But by all means, Matt, please answer the question that I asked Zemi Games. What are your thoughts on this?
On the Spider-Man thing?
No. what we were talking about prior, the Ninja Theory
about Ninja Theory.
about Ninja
Oh,
Theory
okay.
hiring. Yeah,
They're
I mean, like,
hiring more people.
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I mean,
Sorry, I got
again,
lost.
we no, it's I had to answer it because again, I don't know if he's
Yeah,
being
yeah, yeah.
quippy or he was trying to be provocative, but whatever. It is what it is. I think that statement is false simply because the numbers prove that PlayStation gamers, they just don't buy first party games like everyone puts them out there to be. It's just they just don't. I
Yeah.
do because that's why I have PlayStation 5. I love their first. That's why I had a PlayStation 4. I love their first party games. It's everything that I want, but not everyone else thinks the same way. But getting back to Ninja Theory, gets back on track. They are like many other the big studios within Microsoft. They are hiring, and they're hiring they're hiring, which we don't know for an unannounced title. We know, Mav, that there are 35 plus teams making multitudes of games. Ninja Theory seems to be the kind of team that once they're done with one thing, and Ninja Blade is going to be that single player experience. So they're going to get done with it. They're going to put people in to finish it. They're going to be working on Project Mara, which is a much smaller
Mm-hmm.
project, right? That's in one flat. It's going to be a horror-based game. It's going to be very PT-esque, if you
Yeah.
will. I would imagine that this new hiring splurge has to do with potentially starting a new project. Are you excited to see what they bring to the table? Where do you put Ninja Theory in the first party? Are there a high tier for you?
Oh, they're super high tier because I played Hellblade, right?
Yeah.
So after I played Hellblade, they were elevated. Now I also like the DMC a lot. I know Devil May Cry like stands, don't necessarily like it because they don't like what it did to their brand, right? But it was a good game, right? They also did what is Enslaved, and they also
So
did
good, dude. Did Devil May Cry a lot? What you
Heavenly,
said, and a lot of people didn't.
yeah,
I happen to quite enjoy it, to be honest
yeah,
with
me
you.
too. They also did like Heavenly Sword. I
Yes,
mean, hey, they have a good
PlayStation
track
3.
record, right? Um, they're capable of a lot. Now, their trademark now has become that ultra realistic, emotional um game where you're a third person game where the character animation, the facial animation, the motion capture is so lifelike.
Yeah,
I
it's
had never
what
played anything like
PlayStation
that before.
gamers have been experiencing with a lot of their first party games, which is what I again own a PlayStation
Yeah.
5 for. Ninja Theory seems to be one of those studios that can, in fact, tell a significant amount of motion in one scene with the way, like you see the way the actress that plays Senua. I mean, just if you look back to when she was chanting when we first saw Hellblade 2 for the first time, that was unbelievably
Mhm.
packed with emotion.
Oh yeah, so they do something special, right? And it's speaking to how those games. That game's kind of similar to some of the stuff that Sony does. I mean, that game actually launched first on PlayStation, the
It
original Hellblade,
absolutely did. It wasn't
and
exclusive. Yes, that's correct.
so I remember playing it actually on the PlayStation, and I didn't really get into it, and then I didn't get into it when it came to Xbox at first, and people kept telling me, you just gotta just do it, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit there and play it, and I sat there one stream 10 hours, right? Like I couldn't pull myself away. It was amazing, loved it. I was blown away, and after that, I was like, oh man, okay, like this was an experience, right? It just wasn't a game, it was an experience. And
Yeah, it was.
it
Did you play with headphones on, by the
oh,
way?
yeah, I was streaming when I played it, so, yeah, I started it, I'm like, "Okay, giving Hellblade another try." 10 hours later, like, "Oh my god, it was, like, incredible," like, on the stream. It was amazing, at that time, I was like, "Man, I've never seen anything like this," because the way that the characters' emotions and facial animations come through, like the realism of the graphics and everything, it was just like it was just different altogether. So at that moment, Ninja Theory went for like, oh, they're a really good studio to like they're an elite studio. Like they're
Yeah.
capable of stuff that nobody else is currently capable of. Because we haven't seen the closest thing we've seen to that ultra realism is like from Quantic Dreams games, right? But
Yeah.
those aren't as actiony, right? You're not like there's no like real combat and all that kind of stuff in those games. So this has like that level of fidelity, but you're actually doing fun stuff as well, right? So it's like, man, it was pretty crazy. Plus, it's also telling a really good story. So Hellblade 2 is like crazy anticipated. It is smart of Xbox to invest in these studios because they're taking something they know that works, and instead of going out and just trying to get a bunch of random studios that they don't necessarily have faith in, they're investing in the
The
formulas that
ones that
work,
they do.
right?
Yeah, it's a great
So
point. Fantastic point.
like every single one of these studios in Exile is growing. They moved into a new studio. Hellblade 2, like they one of the first things they did was invest in the new motion capture studio
Yep.
for them. Right? They're hiring like crazy. Do I think there's another project in the works? I think it's possible because Ninja Theory has had a history of working on multiple projects at the same time.
Yes.
But they released they Bleeding Edge, which was like a little side project, from one of their devs while they're working on Hellblade 2, right? I think there's teams that they can split up and divvy up, even though they're a small team, and do these little passion projects, right? It kind of remind me like in a way, like Double Fine's a small team, and you know how they in the 360 era they kept coming out with these like little projects, like
Yes.
hey, here's like Iron Brigade, or here's
Which, by the
Costume
way,
Quest.
was dope.
Yeah, loved it. Absolutely great. Or there's like Costume Quest, or here's Broken Age, or whatever they all came out with at the time, right? There was so many different games, and each one of them was like kind of passion projects for different members of the team, right? And it's almost like Ninja Theory kind of operates in the same way, where like Hellblade was a passion project. Somebody had the idea for Bleeding Edge, didn't really work out, right? But maybe there's something else there. We know Project Mara. There was a third thing that they kept talking about, and I can't. It was
Yes.
like Project something, like Insight or something like that.
Yes.
I don't remember what that was, but
I think it was
they've
a
got some stuff going on.
it was a focus on mental illness awareness.
Right.
I don't
Okay.
necessarily know if it was going to be a game. I believe it was their push into making mental illness
Yeah.
a conversation that a lot of people need to have, and I think that they might have been able working on something to tell that story through the way that they tell stories. So I don't think it's going to be a game per se, but I could be entirely wrong.
Yeah. I'm not sure either. So I mean, the other question you asked was, where does Ninja Theory, like, where does it sit for me among the other studios? And that's a crazy hard question to ask, because you're talking about, you got to put 343 stepped up a notch now
The
for me.
coalition just showed their works for the Matrix demo,
Yeah.
which they helped co-create.
Then you got, okay, Bethesda Game Studios, which
Obsidian.
you got Starfield coming next year, so you got Obsidian. I mean, it really, you got no Turn 10 and Playground are no slouches either. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
It's kind of
So
like choosing or saying who your favorite child is. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
it
It's
is,
like you
man.
don't want to say, like, you may kind of have one that you prefer, but you really still don't want to say,
They all do something different. That's the thing. Like each one of these, like when Xbox was acquiring these studios, they they were acquiring certain systems and character of these studios. Like I think they said it best when they talked about it's so much harder to start a studio because you got to have to create culture, right? When you're bringing in these studios and you kind of leave them alone, but then just like invest in them and let them expand, you're investing in the culture that they've already created. And each one of these studios already has their own culture, already has their own identity. They bring something different to the table. So it's like really hard to pick like where do you rank compared to you? I mean, they freaking are winning multiple awards now. You have Psychonauts 2 from Double Fine nominated for like almost every category at the
Yeah,
Game
five of
Awards,
them.
right?
Five, which
Um,
that's one of the things I walked away from the Game Awards. Not disappointed for me,
yeah.
right? Because I didn't make the game. I played the game, and it's brilliant. I
Mhm.
felt really bad for Tim Schafer and the folks over at Double Fine, because I mean you can kind of feel his heartbreak a little bit when when he tweeted. He goes, "Wow, we were nominated 5 times, didn't win anything." I, it, I kind of wish they would at least won something. There were at least 2 awards that they could have won that were really kind of specific for them.
I think so. I think they have won some like from some other sites and publications. I think like even the G4 reboot, G4 TV's back. I think they made it that like X Play Game of the Year or something. So I think they're gonna get their like credit with that game, and I think it's gonna make a lasting impression. But you got to put Double Fine up there. You got to put 343 up there after Halo Infinite's launch. I mean, so it's just. Also, like you said, Halo Infinite won Game of the Year from Game Informer, right? So I mean, all these studios, and if you guys think this is like okay, well, this was a good year, right? And then we'll see what happens in the future. Just take this year as an example, and kind of try and multiply it by another exponent year after year, right?
Yep.
That's kind of what we're going to see is in store for Xbox because there's no letting up next year. There's no letting up in 2023, no letting up in 2024. And the investment in the studios is the proof. The investment in the studios, the investment in the games and new projects is the proof. And that's not even counting Microsoft Game Studios publishing with third party. Yep. So yeah, man, it's huge. It's a dedication to quality, dedication to the studios, and there every time everybody says something like about Xbox that like references like the Xbox of like 2011 to 2013, like this is you're ignoring all the evidence out there of the proof that this is different, right? That this is different, and this generation is going to be insane. It's going to be absolutely insane because if they're investing this much in the studios, that investment comes from like if we've learned anything from this Xbox documentary, it comes from meetings, pitching projects. Okay, well, what kind of budget do you need? Okay, well, this is the kind of budget. Well, we're going to need more staff. Okay, we'll go hire. Right? It doesn't come with just like, hey, you guys just hire randomly for no reason. There's a reason behind the hirings. There's got to be a justification to the investment because you don't just randomly hire without expectations of a return on that. Right?
Of course, yes.
So
absolutely.
This is all exponential, man. It's going to be insane.
Absolutely. Real quick, I want to just thank Jay Nichols for an additional $2 super chat. Says thank you, Boom. I respect that, meaning the numbers, and my pleasure, dude. Listen, when like I said, I think it's safe to say that first party isn't what it's not that it wasn't what it used to be. It's still incredibly important to any conversation when talking platform. That is not what I'm talking about. But the general populace, we diehards buy everything first party. I know that I do.
The casuals.
Yeah. Casuals that made up 85+% of those 115 plus million, 125 million PlayStation 4s and 5s. 80, think about that for a second. 85% of purchasers of that brand of PlayStation were casual. They bought it because it was the cool system, right? Everyone was talking about PlayStation. They're the market leader. Sony knows how to market the hell out of that package, and they did quite well with it. So that's that. You think about that for a second, and that's why you don't see 55.7 million copies of Spider-Man sold, because even though he's the biggest Marvel character, he's the face of Marvel, and he is exclusive to PlayStation. There are too many casuals that buy 2 games a year. They buy a Call of Duty, they buy a Grand Theft Auto, or they buy the next Madden or NBA 2K, whatever. That's what these casual gamers buy. That's why you're never going to see any of PlayStation's games sell 30, 40, 50, 60 million copies. It's just not going to happen. But I want to thank you for the 2 super chats. Jerron TJ drops an additional $5 super chat and says, do you think Hellblade 2 will ever be 2-player co-op at least? Nah, I don't know. I don't think so. I just don't, because that's not the story. I mean, unless I got it wrong. I mean, what do you think, Zemi?
I hope not. And I talk about this a lot, like and in private, and I've also mentioned on the podcast whenever we were initially talking about Fable a long time ago. You know, I think a lot of people kind of have it in their heads that they want other games to be like other games. You know what I mean? For instance, we had a conversation. I think Archimedes and maybe you as well were kind of in the camp that hey, I want Fable to be a little bit more like with The Witcher, right? And I'm in the
I
mindset
kind
that
of said that initially, and
yeah,
I've backed off from that because
yeah.
I agree with you. I'd rather it just be still maintain the charm that we all know Fable for, but to give us a more darker theme.
Yeah.
Give us. You can still have the chicken kicking, which I know you really
Yeah.
enjoy.
Oh yeah. Oh
But
man. Yeah. The abuse of chickens. Fantastic.
but I still want it to be a story that we look to complete, and that we're excited
Yeah.
to complete.
And and I like the idea that each game is different. One thing that kind of drags me down about, or has historically dragged me down about Ubisoft, is the fact that a lot of their games, like if you've played one, you kind of played them all, right? Because they're all that open world, like let's go capture bases and do that
Yes.
type of experiences. And don't get me wrong, I love co-op, right? What Joseph and his team did with A Way Out and It Takes Two, which I've still yet to play, I think is fantastic. And those types of experiences I think are great with co-op. But I don't think that every game just needs to have co-op just to have co-op, right? Elder Scrolls, for instance, I think it is a magical experience, it being single player. I think if you add in co-op, you take a lot of that magic away. And we also have to remember that, we as gamers, we don't really recognize this a lot of times, but these game companies, they have to stick to a budget, right? And if they're adding in multiplayer, capabilities and features, that's less money that they have for single player quests or to expand the open world or to do other things like that. So I would rather it be the experience that they want to build and to keep the magic of that made the first Hellblade game and expand on that and make it better. And I don't think co-op is necessarily the way to do that. So to me personally, I would say no. I think that they should just keep it single player.
Yeah. Why so serious in the chat says, look what happened to Dead Space. You can't argue
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
and Ninja Theory, they've proven that they are really, really good at making, single player games. Like they've proven that. Bethesda, they've proven that they're really good at making single player games as well. Whenever Bethesda tried to make a multiplayer game, that was Fallout 76, and it didn't turn out very well. There's always the risks that a developer is going to try something new and knock it out of the park, like what Sony Santa Monica did with the newest God of War. But there's also that chance that they're going to try something new and fail.
Yeah, 100%.
So it is what it
Only
is.
Microsoft would have potentially tried to force them into making a co-op be into one of these
Yeah.
games, right? It's
Sure.
not Microsoft now, but I think that for me, I would only want there to be co-op or something in this game if that was their actual vision
Mhm.
for it. And if it's
Right.
not, which I don't think it is, then hey, it doesn't. I don't want it. Like I don't like when things are forced on the devs from like publishers or stuff like that. Like you could point to look at Avengers, right? Like, could you imagine if Crystal Dynamics was given the ability to make a game like Guardians of the Galaxy?
Which,
You
by the
know?
way, is in my top 5 of the year. That's a
Yeah,
masterpiece, and Avengers is not. But you're 100% right. That's a great point. Just imagine if they were if that team that brought us the best Tomb Raider in Rise of the Tomb Raider of all, it's my favorite in the series. Just imagine if they were able to tell an Avenger level single player story driven game,
mhm,
what Avengers could have turned out to be. And of course, Square Enix being, well, who they are, they wanted to make this into a money cash grab, and it failed. So
yeah,
that's a great point. And obviously we wouldn't see that happen with Ninja Theory, because they are Microsoft is letting people do what they want to do, and we know that they want to tell and continue telling Senua's story, which we're going to get. And now we're going to transition over, of course, into what we saw at the Game Awards. Now, I'm not a tech guy. I think I'm pretty clear about that. I have a decent pulse hand on the pulse of tech, but I'm not a techie, if you would. And when I saw Hellblade 2 on display at the Game Awards for that 6+ minute gameplay reveal, I was like, holy shit, Unreal Engine 5 looks incredible. Well, folks, it turns out that I was wrong. It was brought to my attention last night that it wasn't Unreal Engine 5 that we saw. It was Unreal Engine 4.26 to be specific about the conversation, and they will be transitioning the game over to Unreal Engine 5 when it's finished and released. And apparently that's not a big deal, going from Unreal Engine 4.26 to Unreal Engine 5. But I'm going to go to Mav first on this. Mav, I don't know how you personally felt. I know that you and Pong were doing your your show, your evening show. That particular, you did a big Game Awards spread, which was awesome. I was in the chat for a little bit. If that is what Unreal Engine 4.26 looks like, how excited should gamers be for when that game gets the Unreal Engine 5 overhaul that it's expected to get when it releases, potentially end of next year, or I'm thinking more so first quarter 2023?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably 2023 as well. It's tough to
Spring.
say. We'll see. Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I mean, it's looking good, right? I mean, it's just like, whoa, like holy crap. It jumped off the screen, it jaws dropped. Um, One of the most, probably the best graphics I've ever seen already. So,
Yeah.
as far as will it look any better when it's an Unreal Engine 5? I mean, I would assume at least a little bit. Like, it looks so good though. It's hard for me to imagine it looking any better. You know, I think that they're probably already have some tools that they're implementing, and that's what they showed us is probably what I'm guessing is like a vision for what they want the game to look like because it was like one vertical slice, right? So I think that it'll probably look, be honest with you, fairly similar to this, um, but just maybe just a little bit better. I'm not expecting it. Like it already looks too good to be true. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what am I what do I expect? I can't expect it to be look any better than that. I just can't. Um, so we'll see, man. I mean, like, were you like blown away? Boom.
I honestly couldn't believe what I was seeing,
Right.
because obviously, we got confirmation from Jeff Keighley multiple times live on the air that this was in fact gameplay.
Yeah.
Michael Yu in the chat drops a pretty important information nugget. He says the audio director from Ninja Theory confirmed Hellblade was in fact gameplay, and the game was being controlled by one of the people on the team.
Yeah.
So again,
That's definitely gameplay.
well, when she picked up the spears, she was handed the
Hmm.
spears. I believe that was gameplay. When she threw the spear multiple times, I believe that was gameplay. When she was running from that giant thing, I believe was gameplay. Sure, was there cinematics in there? But I'm gonna be honest with you. And again, this is where I come into. Well, I'm not a techie. I couldn't tell. And maybe because I wear glasses, I don't know what to tell you. I couldn't tell, and I didn't see a transition from one to the other. It was so seamless
Yeah.
that it just looked like we were watching a film, but it was an actual game. So my takeaway was what takeaway from this was, well, our good brother and friend of this entire community, Lord Cognito, has been on his quest to hashtag just one Microsoft, right? Well, this is one of them. This is one of many I believe we're going to get. And I mean, again, I don't know how else you finish off a year, Mav, to be honest with you. When you look at Forza Horizon 5, which you've got the whole show, you got all of their first party quote unquote bangers. Psychonauts 2 came out of nowhere. It's the industry darling. Flight Simulator is a modern day masterpiece for a lot of people that love flight sim games. You got again Forza Horizon. You got Microsoft 343 hitting it out the park with both single player and multiplayer for Halo Infinite, which again, this was a game that a lot of people kind of just will go like, yeah, it's Halo, whatever. And it winds up being something very special. And on top of all of that greatness that we got from Microsoft first party, include Age of Empires 4. I don't want to forget that because it's not for me, but
I
other
also
people
won an award.
Yeah, which won an award as well. And you start the Game Awards with this Hellblade footage. I mean, what could you say other than Microsoft and Xbox gamers specifically are in for a real treat, especially if you hung around during the tough years where they kind of weren't doing things right. 13, 14, 15, those are years that they did have some first party games that I enjoyed, but they just weren't hitting on all cylinders. And then as we got later into the generation, they started to turn things around, specifically when Phil Spencer became, where he is now in summer of 2018. We saw the ship starting to turn, especially when it came to first party developers. But what can I say, Mav? I was not only blown away. I could not believe what I was seeing, and this is coming from someone. And I said this earlier in the podcast. I'm very privileged, and I never take that for granted. A lot of people that are getting into gaming now are getting into gaming because of their age. They just weren't around when I was growing up. But I'm very fortunate to say that I got my first box in 1978 thanks to my pops, right? And I've been gaming ever since. So I've actually been able to see gaming go from sticks and dots to what we just saw at the Game Awards with Hellblade 2. And it's, for an old dude like myself who appreciates where I came from and where I am now, it's quite breathtaking, to be honest with you. Semi, what do you think about this? I mean, you're obviously a big Ninja Theory fan. You're obviously a big Hellblade fan. Where does it fall for you that what we saw was the old Unreal Engine 4 versus what we're going to get in Unreal Engine 5, which has been confirmed by Ninja Theory?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited for Unreal Engine 5, but Unreal Engine 4 is still a great engine. I mean, and coupling that with modern day hardware that we have now, it can lead still to amazing experiences. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, the studios should be like, nah, we don't want Unreal Engine 5. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that Unreal Engine 4 is still a fantastic software to create games in, even still to this day, especially with modern day hardware. Whenever they transition the game over, I'm sure, it is going to look better. Is it going to be a night and day difference? Of course it's not. Come on. But it is going to look better. The lighting effects are probably going to look
I was just going to say
better.
that the effects and the ambient lighting is probably going to be like mind-blowing.
It'll probably help them complete the game faster also because of the nanite. They're not going to have to worry as much about resources and all that kind of stuff. So that's a key aspect to it.
And then of course, maybe, I think that there's better tools for ray tracing in Unreal Engine 5. So the audio quality with ray tracing, I think, is going to possibly be better as well than if it was just using Unreal Engine 4. But overall, I thought it was a fantastic showing of the game. The best looking game of this year's Game Awards for sure. And I thought that they were extremely, extremely generous on what they showed us, right? They could have just showed us another cinematic
6+ minutes, Emmy.
Maybe a few little clips of gameplay, but they showed us literally 6 minutes of in-gameplay footage of the game. And, there's a lot of people that have, of course, kind of argued, well, that wasn't actual gameplay. And, and I get why there's that confusion, because Hellblade is one of those games where it has a very, very limited HUD. And unlike what we see with a lot of games, and it is just so breathtakingly cinematic that there's moments, and I mentioned this on the show, the Breakfast with Boom show last Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
There's moments in the game where I literally had no idea that I was able to actually start inputting commands into my controller, right? And like my character was just standing there not doing anything, and I was like, well, this is kind of a weird cutscene. But no, I could actually play the game then. That's how amazing the transitions are between the quote unquote cinematics and the actual gameplay. That's just how impressive of a game the first Hellblade was at, just, visually. And so, if you play the first Hellblade, you can definitely tell that what we saw was gameplay, and it looks absolutely incredible. I love the giant coming in. I thought that they couldn't have used a better set piece or a better moment in the game than what they did, having that huge giant come along and crawl up inside of the cave, and using that cave to where you could really see the lighting and really see the detail, like the sparks coming off the torch and how the light impacts with different objects in the cave, I thought was fantastic. And then of course they came outside and you could see, the somewhat daytime, maybe early morning or dusk lighting. I thought it looked absolutely incredible. And I am really, really, really excited for this game. I'm a coward, right? I say this every show. Everyone knows it. It's not a secret. Everyone knows that I'm a scaredy cat. Okay. I don't like being scared. And Hellblade, to me, the first one was really on the border of, okay, I think I've maybe had about enough now. It took me, the game's not long, like maybe 8 hours or something, but it took me like 4 playthroughs to beat it because and it's also kind of like an emotional game because you see behind what psychosis is like for certain people in the population.
More so you hear it. Again, this is why you it's two different experiences. It's in Game Pass, obviously, because it's first party. If you missed out on Hellblade, I know that a lot of people had issues with the puzzles. The puzzles were somewhat frustrating at times. It wasn't the greatest design. And that's probably the biggest quip of the game. But if you have not experienced it, you owe it to yourself as a gamer, specifically as if you want to learn and potentially be clued into how people who suffer through mental illness hear some of these things. Like I said, it wasn't done just to be an additive to a game. They specifically wanted people to understand how someone that suffers from psychosis is, what they hear. And when you wear headphones and you hear on your left someone's talking into your ear, and then to the right, and then sometimes both, it is extremely distractive. And this is what people, this is what you got to really appreciate the love and care that Ninja Theory has gone into developing the first one, now more so the second one, and how they're not shying away from talking about what some people might find to be an uncomfortable conversation. But that's a great point, Zami.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate, and I think that's probably the right term, in the sense that I don't struggle with any of those types of issues of psychosis or anything like that. I'm fortunate, I would say, that I don't have those things that impact me. But to, coupling that with the somewhat horror vibes of Hellblade, I kind of put it as like a psychological thriller, right? And it was almost at some points too much for me to handle, and that's why it took me a very long time to play and beat. But it was really, really good, and so, in a way, I'm really looking forward to this game because I absolutely love the last one. Love the storytelling, love the gameplay, the combat, the cinematics, the sound effects were all absolutely fantastic. But there's this other part of me that's like, come on, Trevor, don't play that game, okay? You barely got through the first one. It scared the crap out of you. Maybe don't. Maybe just watch the Let's Play. But I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. I'm going to be jumping in day one, playing the game. Super excited. I loved what they showed during the the Game Awards. Once again, kudos to them for being as generous as what they are, because so often we as gamers kind of have this self-entitled mindset of, well, we deserve this, or this company needs to do this for me because, look who I am, right? I'm a gamer or whatever, right? But they didn't have to show what they did. They didn't have to show as much as what they did. So I'm super, super thankful that they did show us what we got. And it looks absolutely stunning.
Indeed, it does. Real quick, I should have made this a topic, but I didn't. I didn't have too much information, but I want to talk about it before we get to outros. It's only going to take about maybe two minutes or so. Power On is a document, a docu feature that Microsoft is doing and has released yesterday. I was under the impression it was going to be like a series, like one episode per week. It turns out that they dropped all 6. I'm into episode 2. I don't know how if Mav or Zemi have checked it out, but people have been talking about it in the chat. It's a docu-series about Xbox from start to finish, from where they started. It's incredibly well done. It is so much information. And it honestly, when you, again, I'm only up to episode 2. I know some people have powered right through it, and they're 40 minutes. They're kind of beefy. So if you were able to get through all, 3.5 hours yesterday, good on you. I don't have the time. I usually watch these things like when I'm driving or waiting for Mrs. Boom, or I don't watch and drive. I listen. I should have changed that because people are like, hey, are you watching and driving? No, I don't watch and drive. I'm gonna fix that before it goes crazy. Michelle Alexandria in the chat, just go to the Xbox YouTube channel and click on where it says videos, and you're going to see episodes 1 through 6. So Michael Yu said it's a little over 4 hours, which is between all 6 episodes. It's really good. I mean, it's really good. And same as Blackley. Wow, that guy, he talks mostly talks in the first. That guy is a genius, bro. No wonder why I didn't know he was a physicist and he bakes bread. I mean, come on. He's the perfect dude. But listen, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This has been a very, very awesome, nearly 2-hour show. I love doing the Xbox Factor podcast. I think we had a great conversation considering it was just 3 of us today. But let's get to the outros, get everyone out here, because I'm going to be honest with you, folks. I'm going back to play Halo as soon as this is done. Like, I'm literally, it's on, it's waiting. I can't wait. Zemi Games, please, by all means, sell your brand. Tell everyone where to reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, where could they check out ConstantGamer.com, and where could they subscribe to your YouTube channel?
Yeah, real quick before I do that though, I have not watched that documentary. I really, really want to, because I'm a huge fan of history and the history behind gaming.
So good,
also
dude.
A huge fan.
It's so good.
Physics is a science, and baking is a science as well.
It is, and about baking because you make delicious chocolate pies from the pictures.
Man, I love them. Seen. I need to make one. I still haven't. I need to make one. Oh my God! I need to go out, buy some cornstarch, and make one, because they are absolutely delicious. And the third thing is, you may not watch while driving, but you will definitely steal a Lamborghini at E3. Was it a Lamborghini?
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't a Lamborghini. What, that was a Bugatti? A Bugatti? King always goes big. He always goes big. And I had to move the car. He says nay because I have a shield. Usually I just tin my way out of a conversation. But it was a bus lane. I had to move the car. I ran up and down. I speeded up a little bit. Yeah. If we go to E3 next year, King, if you're listening, I know you are, I'm going to borrow your very expensive car, and that is happening.
He's going to hide the keys. He's going to make sure to take the keys out of the ignition whenever he goes in to get the passes. Anyway, sorry for the derail. My YouTube channel is called Constant Gamer. I create gaming focused videos, gaming news, theory videos, reviews, all that type of stuff. So if you like gaming content, stop by, watch some videos on the Constant Gamer YouTube channel. And if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. You guys can also follow me on Twitter at Zemi Games. I post the typical stuff that you would expect someone like me to post. So if I find an interesting gaming article, I usually post that. And then, of course, every now and then, whenever I make something just absolutely, exceptionally delicious, I usually post food pics as well. So if you like to get hungry, and if you, want to hear about game news or just follow me and see what I'm doing, follow me on Twitter at Zemi Games. Boom. As always, fantastic show. And I look forward to next Tuesday, man.
Yes. Thank you very much. And then, yes, again, next Tuesday, will be the final show of the year for the Xbox Factor podcast. We will be doing a top 5 of games that we played. We will be doing the biggest news of the year. Again, it's the end of the year program, so we're going to have some fun with that. Mav, by all means, brother, you have a lot to talk about because you have so many shows that you're doing, and they're all quality content. The newest one with PM in the PM, I think the name is just phenomenal, and the cast that you have with you, which is with Pong Soul, is again, it's perfect that you guys just go back and forth. Tell everyone about your channel that is growing at a record pace, and where can people reach out to you and potentially strike up a conversation on social media.
Yeah, Boom, appreciate it. Zimmy, it was awesome conversations as well, sir. Chat, you were lively tonight. Or today, not tonight. Sorry. I'm on a different mindset right now.
Well, you know
I
what it
just
is.
wanna
You're
play
used to
video games
working
and-
at night, so that's what it is.
You usually do your shows at night, yeah.
It's true. So today was awesome. Yes, guys. Chat, you were great. If you want to check out what we have on Fun Speculation, I would greatly appreciate it. That's the name of the YouTube channel. You can also find me on Twitter at Fun Speculation. We have several shows, as Boom said. 70 subs away now from 2K. So we're
Come on.
we're approaching.
There's more than
We're
70
trying to get
people
there.
here. Please, let's
Trying
get
to
this
get
guy
there.
to 2K. Come on.
I'm hoping I'm crossing my fingers. Maybe it can happen in the next 2 weeks before the new year. However, if it doesn't, it doesn't matter. You know,
It has
we're just
to
having
happen.
fun.
It has to happen.
The thing is, I'm not going to have as many shows like the last 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So that's the thing that you always, because I can't make everybody show up on Christmas Eve and New Year's.
You
know?
should do a video of what you talked about before. I'm telling
Right.
you, dude, I'm not going to say because I don't want to spoil it. The conversation we had pre-game was incredible.
Yeah,
and I think you should do a video on that.
I'll work on that because I was trying to think of some things to put up for content, you know, around the holidays. So we'll work on that too. But again, you know, everybody appreciate it. It's gonna be, like Boom said, the last show of the year for a lot of our shows this week.
Mhm.
So tune into Xbox Ultimate on Friday. It's gonna be crazy. We're gonna have a lot of fun. This is gonna be our end of the year show, right? On Friday, as well as PM in the PM. It's gonna be our end of the year show on Thursday with me and Pong. We may do a fun pop next week. I got to talk to the guys. So the fun pop is on Wednesdays. We talk about movies and TV shows, and we got Spider-Man coming and all this fun stuff, man. And the Matrix as well. And then Saturday, again, the last show of the week for FSP, Fun Speculation Podcast. So try and tune in if you can. If you can't, that's fine. Drop a like. You know, appreciate it, guys. And thanks for all of you showing up for Boom shows, because Boom is amazing. And
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that very much.
Keep your channel growing as well.
Yeah, well, we are just under 800 away from 10K. We're definitely not hitting it this year, unless Microsoft makes an announcement of they purchased the world. Then maybe, but I think
Purchase Double Barrel Gaming. There we go.
I am for sale, and no, I am not a whore. So just FYI. But real quick, before we get everyone out of here, there's still 160 people here. I probably should have opened the show with this. This Friday's Breakfast with Boom is the big one. I'm trying to figure out what guests I can get outside of our panel. It is the big giveaway show that we do every year. It's our 4th annual. It is Christmas with Mr. and Mrs. BoomStick. Folks, we have over $700 worth of prizes that we're giving away. I'm going to drop that list tomorrow on Twitter. If you're not following me, follow me. It's at Mr. BoomStick XL, and it's quite simple. Be in the chat, and you have a shot to win. Drop super chats, you get an extra entry. Become a channel member, you get an extra entry. $700+ worth of stuff, and this is. No one is supporting the channel but me and Mr. and Mrs. BoomStick. We have no sponsorships. No one's giving us any of this stuff. We have content creator starter kit we're giving away to one lucky winner, where you're going to get an HD camera and a mic so you can start your foray. We have a Kishi for handheld gaming using the cloud gaming. We have a bunch of stuff. I'm giving away the Mario Kart, actual Mario Kart that you can give to one of your kids for Christmas. That's what we're giving away, and there's a ton of digital prizes. But again, tune in. Look for all that information to come tomorrow on Twitter. It's a very long list, and all you got to do is be in the chat while we are doing the show live, and you got a shot at winning either a digital, physical, or in some cases, we're doing it both. We're giving you a digital and a physical gift, and this is just our way of giving back to the community. This is our way of saying thank you for supporting us for all of these years and to potentially helping us get to the 10K, which will put the channel in a different algorithm that we could see more growth. I've heard from several people, once you hit 10K, you start to see growth, incredible growth after that. And we're doing it the mom and pop way. We don't have any sponsorships. We're not selling ourselves out for views or clicks. We're just doing it. We're putting the work in for the good content. And again, it's just our way of saying thank you for supporting our dream. And that's going to be this Friday, Christmas with Mr. and Mrs. BoomStick. And one of the big topics is some new information regarding an open world Sam Fisher Splinter Cell game coming from Ubisoft. I'm hyped. I know that Zemi Games might be hyped. I don't know how many people. I've saw a lot of kickback on it. But you know what? The game has got to evolve, and who doesn't want to travel around the world as Sam Fisher? Because I do. But listen, folks, thank you so much for the super chats that have come in. Again, those super chats do help us set up these big giveaways. We've done several this year, and this is the biggest one. We are trying to get to $1,000 giveaway, and we might get there. We're trying to figure out a way to add a few more prizes. And again, it's just all you got to do is be in the chat, and you get a few entries live on the air if you do super chats, and of course, or you are a channel member. But I want to thank my panel today. I also want to thank everyone that came out to hang out with us. We had almost 300 people here, which is awesome. And of course, I'll close out the show with something that is important to me. Hopefully one day it'd be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught me when we were kids. And he used to say, son, treat others how you want to be treated. Also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest and last episode of the year for the Xbox Factor podcast.